What's up guys, DuArktik with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we're going to talk about the new characters and see if you should take any of these characters to Dark Dimension 6 and which characters you should get the most red stars on for these new teams that we have coming, right? We have the new Avengers that are required for a legendary. Unfortunately, we have the new raid team, Pegasus team, that we need for the incursion raids supposedly, and we have to decide if any of these characters are going to be like good enough for Dark Dimension or if you just should focus on something else, because usually gearing up characters that are not part of some legendary team or something like that don't give you a lot of value throughout time, right? We have raid teams in the past that maybe they last for 1 year, sometimes even less, and we don't want to make the same mistakes, right? Even I get up a Nemesis, and Nemesis is okay because he was part of a legendary team, but I get up, for example, Captain America, and now I feel like Captain America will not hold a lot of value long term because it's not as useful in other game modes. But we'll see about that in the near future with the changes to Cosmic Crucible, Alliance Wars and so on. But we're going to focus once again on the new characters, if they bring value or not to your Dark Dimension team. So as always, if you like the information on these videos, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and make sure you smash that like button like a boss. Okay, so something that we have to mention before we start is that all of these characters are going to be new, and we have to judge these characters around 4 yellow stars, 4 red stars. Beyond that, it's a little bit unfair to judge because it's going to be only for the whales, and let's be honest, whales, they can take whichever character they want. Other thing that we need to take into consideration is the gear that the characters take, the centerpiece uniques, but not only that. One bottleneck that is very important in Dark Dimension 6 is the focus and health catalysts. So whenever we have a character that requires a lot of those, we have to mention it, and then we have to say what these characters bring to the table and which characters are going to be more useful in Dark Dimension or have some additional value outside of that game mode. Okay, so let's start off with DuArktik, and DuArktik is global and it doesn't have a lot of stats. You can see right here that 4 yellow 4 red is going to have around 1 million health. If you already have Big Apocalypse unlocked, it's a little bit better, but overall I would still say that it's not great. One good thing about DuArktik is that for his centerpiece unique he uses focus at She, which not a lot of people use, and also the focus and catalysts are decent. He uses 3 sets of mini uniques, which most characters will take a look at, will use, so we'll not mention that super often. But overall, in terms of gear, it's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. So we have to see in terms of the kit if the kit brings something to the table or not for the Dark Dimension. With the basic, he applies offense down for 2 turns. So yeah, that can be useful in Dark Dimension because it's for multiple targets. And then he spreads negative effects on the enemies, excluding stun. So if you have a character that applies blind or ability block, this ability could be extremely useful with the DuArktik. And then the ultimate doesn't do anything. The passive gives him some healing whenever the allies crit, and he also gives himself energy or to Pegasus allies if you are using the basic attack. So there is some value here. The biggest problem of DuArktik, and the biggest problem and why it's going to be compromised at this value, it's his speed. His speed is just not good enough, and because of that we'll have to skip him. Like anything under 110 speed is a little bit too low for Dark Dimension, and because he's not the leader of the team, he has less health compared to other characters, and he might die way too fast. Okay, so let's move on to the next character, which is going to be Iron Man. Iron Man, unlike DuArktik, is the leader of the team, so he's going to get additional health and damage. Taking a look at his stats and his speed, he's going to be also slow, but because he has additional health, that impact of him being slow is not as significant. Then in terms of the gear, uses a big amount of L catalyst and focus catalyst, but this is like the standard. 250, it's pretty much the standard at this point for Dark Dimension 6. The biggest problem with him is the centerpiece unique. Tempered Osmium, you need this for Gambit, you need this for Nova, you need this for Morgan Le Fay. So a lot of important characters that require this, and because of that, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to gear up this character unless you already geared up all the other characters. 3 centerpiece uniques, 3 mini sets as well, and in terms of the ability and what he brings to the table, is the character that you should give the most red stars on this Pegasus team, because he's a healer, he's a tank, and he's a massive damage dealer. So you really want to make sure that he is as big as possible. So with the special, he's going to apply some bleeds. The basic doesn't do anything important for Dark Dimension. With the ultimate, defense down, clears positive effects, that's okay. The biggest benefit here is the blind for 2 turns. This can be quite significant, but when you are facing enemies in Dark Dimension and we have tons and tons of enemies, sometimes 8 at the same time, sometimes even 10 at the same time, one blind alone is not going to cut it, and especially for Global. Global is one of the toughest sections of Dark Dimension 6, so one blind alone for 2 turns is not going to be enough. Then we have the extra health, extra damage, and it might be the case that you want to build this character and bring along a Rescue. If you bring Rescue and Iron Man, it could be a good combo. It's like using Captain America and Captain Carter. You're gonna have extra survivability, you're gonna have revive mechanics, but I would not recommend. I just don't think it's good enough to bring them. Okay, let's move on to the next character. We have Ironheart, and Ironheart, in terms of speed, she's much better than each of the characters we have seen before. The stats, they are quite low. In terms of health, the armor is okay. And then we have the gear. 3 sets of mini uniques, health catalysts a lot, but the focus catalysts are just through the roof. It's just so much. And Vibranium can be a big deal or not, depending on where you are in the game. If you are a mid-range player, if you are still building your Wakanda team, the Vibranium might be quite problematic. In terms of her kit, she applies slow with the special, she applies slow with the ultimate. She also has 1 stun, and most of the times, yes, 1 stun is better than no stun, and because she's faster than the other characters, that stun will be more impactful than late blind, right? She also spawns with the flex, so she'll have some extra survivability, even that she doesn't have the biggest amount of health. So, I mean, she's okay. The biggest problem about her is that she's the character you don't want to build on the Pegasus team. You actually want her to die all the time. So whenever you revive her, you get all this extra speed bar, the extra energy, and all the other things that she does on spawn. So it's kind of a big problem, right? The character you want to die as often as possible is the character that somewhat has the best value if you get it up for Dark Dimension. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Kestrel to finish the Pegasus team. Kestrel got a rework, and it was not to her kit, it was to her stats. In terms of the kit, it's still pretty much the same. Speed up and defense up and immunity for 2 turns, that's all great. Defense down for multiple targets. Then we have these clear towns and it does nice amount of damage. And extra health if she is paired up with the Cosmic Allies, which she will. So we're gonna get this 20% extra max health. In terms of the stats, this is what really changed. When I used my Kestrel at gear tier 18, 700 stars, 7 yellow stars, blah blah, all of these things, this is the health that she had. So maxed out Kestrel, in the past, she had 1.3 million health. And now if you max out your Kestrel, she's going to have 1.8 million health. So that's a 500,000 health difference, which is huge. And the damage also went from 92,000, and if you build her up with Striker, she's gonna have around 125,000 damage, which is super significant. 125 speed, so yeah, as you guys can see, Kestrel, even that her kit didn't got reworked, her stats are so impactful right now that she's definitely a must-have character in a Dark Dimension. So if there were any questions in the past, if you'd bring Kestrel or not, well, it's no longer the case. You definitely have to bring Kestrel, and that's also a good thing because you also have to gear it up for Apocalypse, right? Okay, last character of the Pegasus team is Rescue. Rescue, she has the best stats of the team, apart from Kestrel. She has a decent amount of speed, 117, nice health, nice armor. The mini uniques are just 2 sets, so she's quite cheap. Focus and health catalyst, she requires more health, but it's not like a major amount. So, I mean, she's quite nice in terms of gear requirements. The problem is her kit. Her kit works mostly in Alliance Wars and in raids. We have this 5% health still, but it only works for Pegasus allies. If it was for all allies, maybe it would be something to consider. Then we have Barrier. This barrier affects all allies. We have Regeneration for all allies. So, I mean, she's not the worst character ever. She brings some support for sure. I'm just not sure if it's good enough for Dark Dimension 6. And usually it's not a good idea to overinvest on your support characters. She's important for sure on the Pegasus team, but we don't know for sure what's the value of this team. Is this team prepared for the next raid? Is this team only made for the raid that we have right now? Way too many questions to consider Kestrel as a character, or not Kestrel, Rescue. One thing that we have to mention, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you want to bring Iron Man and Rescue at the same time, there is some value there, but it will set you back quite a lot in terms of tech gear, so I would not recommend that. Because of how much it sets you back, I would definitely not recommend it, unless you really like raid teams or something like that. I don't know, I would definitely not take any of these characters to gear tier 18. Okay, let's move on to the next character, which is Tigre. Tigre, she is trash. She's absolute trash. She is absolutely dog shit. And it's for multiple reasons. Her health is trash, her armor is trash, the damage is nice, focus is nice, and the speed is also nice. But I mean, Dark Dimension, your characters need to stay alive, and it's not going to be for her. In terms of gear, she's bio, she requires 2 sets of mini-uniques, she requires Carbonadium, which Omega Red also needs, so there is some problems there. She requires tons and tons of focus catalysts, not as much as health, but the focus catalysts are definitely going to be a problem. And when you take a look at her kit, you see why she's also trash. One of the many reasons she has. She's going to have taunt all the time. And you don't want taunts in Dark Dimension, you actually want the opposite of taunts. She's gonna have some evades, and these evades will kill her because, like, if you are facing 8 enemies at the same time, getting like 1 or 2 evades, or 3 evades, or even 5 evades, it's okay. I mean, she's gonna have some survivability, but you need to complement her with other characters like Black Widow or with Spider Weaver that apply a lot of stuns and that reduce the accuracy of the enemies. So the evades are not consumed and your characters are protected. So if you are building Black Widow and Spider Weaver, yes, you could possibly bring Tigre. I would still not recommend it because most of her kit is locked behind Alliance Wars. In War this, in War that, most of her stats are also divided between herself, between Mockingbird and between the other characters. So she's not a fully fledged character, she's part of the team and she has to work with our team to have the full stats. So while she would work out okay, once again with Black Widow and with Spider Weaver, I'm not sure if I would recommend because the other abilities she does is just like bleeds, more bleeds, blah blah blah. She has no stun, she has no blind, she has no turning wind like Lady Deathstrike. So I would definitely avoid taking Tigre to Dark Dimension, but once again, if she's like your favorite character, it's not one of the worst characters. Okay, last character that we have to talk about is Zombie Juggernaut, and this guy is quite amazing, very impressive with Zombie Juggernaut. And in terms of stats, he has pretty decent stats. The speed is okay, not the best, not the worst. In terms of gear, he is bio. He requires 3 sets of mini nicks. He requires the same amount of health as Catalyst, and he requires infinite energy, which right now is not very popular unless you are also taking Dagger to Dark Dimension, which I don't recommend taking Dagger to Dark Dimension. In terms of his kit, he spreads bleeds, which can be nice. Dark Dimension, you always have a lot of characters packed together, so spreading those bleeds could be interesting. He applies slow to all enemies for 2 turns. This is absolutely amazing, must-have ability for Dark Dimension, and prolongs all negative effects on each target. So once again, if you have characters that apply stuns, characters that apply blinds, characters that apply trauma, like Apocalypse, Zombie Juggernaut can be extremely useful, definitely very useful, because he's going to extend all those negative effects. Once again, he's going to extend trauma, he's going to extend stuns, and he's going to extend blinds in case you can apply them to your enemies. One problem with Juggernaut is that he's going to spawn with taunt, and he's going to gain taunt as well, and we don't want that because you don't have revive mechanics for Juggernaut, and this is what's going to cripple this character. It's that he spawns with taunt, he does not spawn with charges. If you would spawn with charges, you'd be able to get this extra speed bar, but because it's not the case, well, he's going to pretty much die right away, and you're not going to be able to do anything with that. He can be revived, but only if he's charged, but to be charged, he needs to pair up with Hela, and he's not going to be paired up with Hela, so unfortunately, Zombie Iron Man or Zombie Juggernaut, he has some potential, but it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to use it, because once again, or you have to stun all the other characters and then extend those stuns. If you can do that, maybe, but I'm not sure. It's just too risky, and while he has more value than Tigre because of his special ability, you are not going to be able to use that value because he's going to die right away. So unless you are bringing a character that can revive him, you are better off just not building up Juggernaut at all. And on top of that, you also don't know which red stars he's going to use, if it's going to be Dark Promotion credits or not. Okay, so just to end the video, which character should get the biggest red stars on the Pegasus team? Kestrel and Iron Man Infinity War. The character with the least stats, probably DuArktik and Ironheart. Ironheart, you really want her to die all the time. With Tigre, she's a legendary requirement, so it's up to you to decide how many red stars you want on her. She does piercing damage, she taunts, so yeah, she should have at least some 5 red stars, if not higher. And for Juggernaut, we don't know if he's going to be Dark Promotion credits or not. If he's not Dark Promotion credits, just get him as big as possible, because he's going to be amazing. Maybe not in Dark Dimension, but definitely on the other game modes. So that's going to be the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, and if you found the video helpful, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. I'll make sure that I will make a new tier list for Dark Dimension with the best characters, in my opinion, for you to take. So make sure you join the Discord, link will be in the description. And that's all for now, and I'll catch you guys later.